Good afternoon. I was just celebrating my birthday last week. On birthdays, I usually contemplate whether I like where I am now, what kind of improvement I have to make in my life, the usual stuff, fear of getting older. But this time, it was different. This time, I thought more about the friends I have, the community I am in, and the things that I have shared. Growing up in Indonesia, I know not a single Jewish person, and I have very few Christian friends. I lived with the stigma that Westernization or anything that associated with it is bad and might corrupt one's faith. But then, the historical tsunami of 2004 hit my hometown and took the lives of 300,000 people. It brought untold story of devastation. But to me, it also brought many lessons. I started working for the United Nations. I had the opportunity to learn about other cultures. It was a page turner to see what I have been missing. To see there are so many ways of life through the humanitarian workers who came from all over the world. I was so overwhelmed with their sincerity, the stories of their home countries. I was invited to dinner by a family from Kenya. I was taught how to make chocolate by a man from Ghana. I lived with French and Italian people and learned to appreciate arts and what life has to offer. I realized that my fear of foreigners came from the idea that I created as a child. I used to imagine that our Christian neighbor grew scary creatures in their house. I understand now that it was my way to cope with something painful and doesn't make sense. For a child, it doesn't make sense that they cannot play with other child because they don't pray the same way. In my experience, hatred comes from pain, and it is a pattern that descended through generations and formed a vicious cycle. Until the million dots that form this cycle break out to create a better pattern, only then change will happen. With every heartbreaking news that each of our community had to grieve with, it is easy to despair. But as a mother, it is my job to find hope for a brighter future. A future where my history doesn't repeat itself. A future where our energy is not spent to fight hatred, but to build what matters the most. A path where our children will thrive in this imperfect world. And I have found it here, in this loving community, that constantly reaching out to each other. I am grateful that change constantly touches my life. I am grateful that my child is growing up in the community where acceptance is not an issue. And with that, I am ready to give and to love, come what may. Thank you.